Out from the Kurdish referendum, Alex Macheras is an aviation analyst and joins me now live from London. Good to see you. So in under 5 hours' time, international flights must stop flying into the Kurdish region. How does this work?
Exactly. Well, good to see you as well. And this is a difficult situation now that Iraq and Baghdad have put the northern Kurdish region in, and that's partly because of what Erbil airport specifically is used for. This airport is a vital link for the United Nations, who are using the airport in and out to bring aid to nearby Syria. It's also used as a point for humanitarian missions and also for cargo and access to food and imports. So with the closure and the ceasefire of all international flights to this airport in around 4.5 hours' time comes the uncertainty as to what lies ahead next. How will these imports go in? How will the United Nations continue to use this airport? The official NOTAM, which is the Notice to Airmen, and that's issued by the Civil Aviation Authority, states that if there is a humanitarian or United Nations flight wishing to continue to fly to an airport in northern Kurdish Iraq, then they can do so pending the approval of the Iraqi government. But other than that, there's not much more mentioned.
Okay, so there could be an exception for humanitarian flights. Clearly that would be important. Otherwise, how would it work? You'd have to go via Baghdad?
Exactly, and that would make things much more difficult, partly because these aren't small airports. You know, Erbil is home to lots of international flights. Some of the last ones leave today, as was mentioned in the earlier report. Qatar Airways have announced that they are having to comply with the Iraqi government, along with other airlines who operate to Erbil and Sulaymaniyah as well, and they say that they are suspending flights until further notice. So it's not known when the airlines will be able to return, and also it's not known quite yet if this is legal.
All right, so what would determine whether it's legal or not? Who determines that?
Well, aviation law is regulated by ICAO, who are the United Nations body for aviation headquartered in Canada. Now, ICAO recognize Iraq as one, and they do not recognize northern Kurdish Iraq or Kurdistan as a separate state, even after the referendum. It's not typical, it's completely typical rather, and for example, Taiwan, that is still not recognized as a separate state to China by ICAO. ICAO look at China as one, and they implement their aviation law to China and expect Taiwan to follow suit. So with this in mind, it's incredibly unlikely that Kurdistan will have their own aviation law or their own kind of position to be able to uphold their own aviation law, because they are not recognized by ICAO. With this in mind, this means that Iraq have now closed and stopped all international flights to the northern Kurdish regions, which they are allowed to do because the Iraqi civil aviation authorities for Iraq control the whole regions, including for northern Kurdish Iraq. Now, with that in mind, the only way they can close airspace is, as per the contracts, they say, if there is a safety issue or a military issue that deems it necessary to do so. With this situation right now following the northern Kurdish Iraq referendum, is this a justifiable reason for closing airspace, for closing access to the airports, to the international flights to Erbil and Sulaymaniyah? Probably not, but that will only happen later if there is a legal case.
All right, lots of questions clearly that still need to be answered. Alex Macheras, thank you.
Thank you.
ISIL has released an audio recording, it says, is from the leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. In June, Russia's military said Baghdadi was killed in an airstrike on the outskirts of the Syrian city of Raqqa. The message urges ISIL members to increase their attacks and to include the targeting of the media. It's the first time Baghdadi has been heard since the armed group lost control of the Iraqi city of Mosul in July. Russia and Turkey have agreed to work more closely in an effort to end the conflict in Syria. President Vladimir Putin has been in Ankara for talks with the Turkish leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan. They've backed opposing sides in the Syrian conflict. Now the two leaders have agreed to push for de-escalation zones in Syria's Idlib